Hi everyone, Barbara Rankin here today with another video creator tutorial for ColourArte. Today I want to make a couple of pretty backgrounds using some mixed media and the beautiful ColourArte products. I'm going to be using this Strathmore acrylic paper pad. I found this pad at my local craft store and I really like the paper, especially for mixed media, because it is nice and thick. And as you can see, it is pretty sturdy and will stand up to a lot of wet media. On one side it has a canvas texture, and on the other it is nice and smooth, which would be suitable for stamping. So I've cut two pieces to 4.5 by 6 inches for card fronts. So let me move this out of the way and we can get started. I'm going to use this Crafter's Workshop stencil by Rhonda Palazzari. It is called Mini Ripples, and I will be using some of this light molding paste from Golden. I like using this product because it dries quickly. So let me get this out of the package, and then I can lay the cards out flat on my surface. And I'm just going to take some of this light molding paste and spread it through the stencil. But I want to spread it unevenly. I don't want any squared off or straight edges. I just want to keep it random. And I'm also spreading it a little thicker so it will have some dimension. And now I'm just going to repeat the process for the other card. I'll go ahead and take that off. And I really want to add just a little more stenciling along the edges where the stencil didn't reach. But first I'm going to gently heat the paste with my heat tool, just long enough to form a skin over the paste. That way it won't be susceptible to getting smushed when I lay the stencil back over any of it. So now I can easily add a little more stenciling along those edges I missed without messing up my previous stenciling. Go ahead and do this on both pieces and then set them aside to dry completely. Be sure to clean the paste off your stencil before it dries. Okay, now for the fun. I've got my two pieces dry. I've pulled out some of my primary elements and I've got these four colors in the new shaker jars. And so I've got Sunburst, I've got Teal Zircon, I have Snapdragon, pretty purple, and Kiwi, which is a real pretty green. I know I'm going to be using Emperor's Gold, and I've got my Big Mama jar here. So I think you're going to love these new shaker jars. They are really, really awesome. So let me, I've got water off to the side here. I've got some brushes, and I've got my my spray bottle. So what I like to do is sort of spray first, and then I'm going to shake some of the color on first. I think I'll start with the Teal Zircon. And let me show you these really cool little containers. They've got this tiny little shaker, and if I lift it, lift this little rubber thing here, you see it now looks like a little pepper shaker. But the nice thing about it is these little, I don't know if you can see, these little things go down in there. Let's try and get that in. There you go. And they sort of plug up the hole and they keep that powder in there nice and neat. I think I'll start with the Teal Zircon and just sprinkle the pigment over the wet surface. Now, there is no fixative or binder in primary elements. It is a pure mica-based pigment, so if you use only water to mix with it, when it dries it will rub off. You can use a variety of acrylic paint mediums because they all have their own binder mixed in. ColourArte has several mediums you can also purchase to mix with the pigment powders, such as the Solution, which is an acrylic wash medium to make your own watercolors. You can put a little of the solution in a spray bottle and mix it 50-50, either 1 or 2 parts water to 1 part solution, and that will fix the colors. Right now I'm just using water, but I do plan on using a spray fixative such as Krylon's low odor spray fixative to bind the pigments to the paper, which will prevent them from rubbing off. Next, I'm going to add some Snapdragon, and as you can see, a little goes a very long way. And I do like to turn the fans off, although since I sprayed my surface with water first, the powder is less likely to blow off of my paper. Now I'm sprinkling some Kiwi over the background, and then I'm going to use the Sunburst, which is a pretty strong color, so I won't need very much of that. Now I'm going to add a little more water to the background, and I'm just holding the paper down with my finger because it is starting to curl. And then I'm trying to just mix and blend the colors by moving the paper up around. And you can see where it looks like there's a little bit of mud developing there, but when it dries it won't look that bad. And the other alternative is to use your paintbrush to move the paints around rather than just, moving the paper back and forth. But I'm drying it, and as I dry it, I can actually add more color, which you'll see me do here in a minute. I'm going to add a little more blue on that card on the right, where it looks a little brownish in the bottom area. And so it's fun to just keep playing with the colors and keep adding them until you like, the colors that you have on your background. So I'm doing a little multitasking here. I've got the heat gun going in one hand and pigment in the other. So I'm going to go ahead and let these dry. Okay, both of my cards are good and dry. Messy on the back, but we're never going to see that anyway. But what I wanted to show you is that all the color's not going to rub off, but some of it will. And especially like I've got a pretty deep concentration of that blue there, and it is coming off on my finger. And it's not all coming off, but it is a good idea, especially if it's a card that's going to be handled by people, to go ahead and when you're done, give it a final coat of a fixative. I like the Krylon Workable Fixatif because it goes on, it's not matte and it's not glossy, it's just pretty much invisible. So that's why I like that. You can use something like Crystal Clear, which is a glossy coating. If you wanted this to be super shiny, well, not super shiny, but depends on how many layers you put on it. But if you want to maintain the shine from the paints and the pigments and the micas here, then I would definitely go with the gloss coating. If you wanted to tone it down and not have it glossy, then you can use a matte coating. But anyway, I wanted to show you that first. And now I'm going to show you how to make a little watercolor with this. I've got a little tray here. And I've got a bit of the solution, and I do want to add a little more of this Teal Zircon into the picture, so I'm just going to take a little bit of it. I'm going to show you this first, and just pop a little bit of the pigment. You can see how little I'm using there. Let me get it close up. Just a few little dabs, and then I'm going to use the solution, and I'm just going to pour some of the solution into the pigment and make my own little watercolor with this. Now when I paint this on, the solution is the binder for the pigment, so the pigment is not going to rub off wherever I've applied this. And any areas that you think could use more color, you can just add to the background like this. Now I want to get a little more of that kiwi color, so I'm mixing up some to add to the background. I didn't even clean my brush for this color because I don't mind if it mixes with the teal zircon. By using the brush, you have a lot more control where the color ends up, and just imagine using these to paint your drawn or stamped images for a beautiful watercolor look. I want to add the blue back in again because I've covered up pretty much of it with the kiwi, and then I'm going to dry the pieces really well before I go to the next color. Okay, my pieces are dry. I am going to rinse the green and blue color out of my brush this time because I do want to add some purple, and I don't want I want the purple to show really well this time. So I'm going to use another little cup here, sprinkle my purple in the pot, and I'll use a little bit more of the solution. I'm just going to give it a little mix. I'm going to take a little bit of water on my brush and try and spread this around just a little bit more. If it's too dark for you, you can take a baby wipe or this paper towel and kind of splotch it up a little. And you can even spray it, mist it again, and let the colors run a little bit more. Just kind of blend out. Okay. And so I think I'm going to leave this one sort of this mermaid color. It reminds me of a mermaid. And then I'm going to just dry this one. Let me move this plastic out. And I'm just going to dry this one real quick. And then we'll come back. I want to add some gold to it, and you'll see how pretty this gold looks when it's all done. Okay, both cards are good and dry again, and now what I want to do is add some highlights. And one of my favorite colors for highlighting is this Emperor's Gold Primary Elements. I've rinsed my brush first so it is clean. There are two ways to get the pigment onto the card. First, you can brush the color over the surface, but my favorite way is to pick up some of the powder on my brush and sprinkle it over the background, and then mist it with water. Since I'm only using water to mist the dry powder, they will definitely need to be sprayed with a fixative when I'm done so they won't rub off. So I'm just brushing the pigment over the background, and you can see how sometimes I'm using a swirling motion to blend the pigment around the stenciled molding paste. I love how the pigment catches on the edges of the paste and makes it just glisten. So I'm going to use one of these fine little mini mister bottles. It's just filled with water, but what I like about it is it gives just a really fine mist of water. It won't drench the background. So I began misting it lightly at first, but if you want some of it to run just a bit, then mist it more and move the paper around to let it run. The mini mister won't put out so much water that the gold disappears, so it is perfect for maintaining the strong gold nugget appearance. I call it that because it looks like tiny gold nuggets all over the paper. Don't be afraid to sprinkle more onto your background and mist it as needed. Just keep adding it until you like the look. Here, let me give you a closer look. Doesn't it look like little tiny nuggets of gold laying around? I just love it. Now to finish the cards, I cut two 5" by 7" side-folded cards for the base, and I added 3 layers of coordinating colored cardstock to each card before adhering the backgrounds. I will post the measurements for each layer in the description box below the video as well as on my blog. I also want to mention that before I adhered everything together, I used a fixative on each background to protect them and to keep the powders from rubbing off. On the left card, I sprayed it with the crystal clear spray, while on the right, this card was fixed with the workable fixative. There's not a lot of difference, but I could have added more of the clear coat for a glossier shine if I had wanted to. But as you can see, I'll tip it and see there's not a lot of extra shine on this, on the one on the left. You can see some of the background areas look a little more shiny than here, but for the most part, there's really not much difference at all. Okay, now since we went to so much trouble to make these beautiful backgrounds, I don't think it's wise to cover them up with a lot of scrapbook papers and flowers and other embellishments. So I've chosen a few focal pieces to use for each card and one of these quote chips for each from Tim Holtz. But of course I don't like the white color there, so I'm going to show you how to change the color on those with the primary elements. This little bird I found in my stash, it was already colored. It's just a little wooden bird, and it just happens to go. So you can still find I know you can find these in the craft store, but I had this one for a while. This is from a package of embellishments by Recollections, which is a Michaels brand, and all I did was use some of this Snapdragon that I had left in the container and watered it down a little bit over here, as you can see, and put it on until it was the color that I wanted. And then I took some of the blue Lagoon mixed with the Kiwi that was in this little pan and just put it in little areas just to add that color. Let's see if I can get a close-up there for you. And the other thing I did, sorry, it's not focusing. There we go. The other thing I did, as you can see, is I used a gold Krylon leafing pen and went around the edge and just made sure that some of it went over the edge. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. And this is the gold leaf pen I used. These are readily available too. And the other thing I wanted to show you, this is some chipboard, just a scrap of chipboard I had from Gypsy Soul laser cuts, and I used my Versamark ink pad and just dabbed the ink on there, and then used this Tanzanite or Tanzanite embossing powder from Ranger. And I went ahead and heat embossed it. But as you can see, it's a little bit duller. See if I can get a bit of a close-up for you. It's not quite the right color. So what I'm going to do, I started putting some of the dry pigment, the Snapdragon dry pigment on there, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to change that real quick. So I've got my Snapdragon primary elements out, and I'm just going to add a little bit to my mat here, and I'm just going to cover it up. And this embossing powder has some kind of, I can glue that back together. Oops. Let's see. Has some kind of texture in it, and even sparkly. And it's rough, so it's grabbing this pigment really well. But this is going to turn it back into the same purple I need. This purple is a little bit hard to match color-wise with other products. So this is going to do just what I need it to do. And I'm just going to glue that piece back. When I glue it down, I'll just glue that back on there. No problem. And let's see. Make sure I get all of it. Or for the most part. Let me see if I can get a close-up of this for you. I'll take still photos of it, and I'll show those at the end of the video, so you'll get a good look at it that way. So I'm going to layer that on there like so. This is something for the bird to perch on, and then I'll color this to the proper color, and I think that card will be finished. I do want to color this as well. This will be glued down, and I want to add one other something or other here. I'm thinking of little gems or something. So, but before I do that, I want to show you how I want to color these. Now you can take this purple color here and just swipe over it. We can let that dry. And this has the solution. Remember, it was mixed with the solution, so it's not going to rub off once we put it down. And I do want to, yeah, I think I'll do this one in purple too. I can add just a little, maybe I'll make it a little bit lighter, just because I can. And I believe I'll go ahead and edge these with the Krylon pen too. But you don't need to watch me do that, so I'll go ahead and do that off camera, and then I'll come back and hopefully I'll have something to add to this card. So here are the finished cards. I will show some still photos at the end of the video so you can get a good look at them. I did decide to add some tiny gems to the elephant card. It just needed a little something. I hope you enjoyed my project today, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up, and I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Don't forget to subscribe to the ColourArte channel, and check out our social media links here. And as always, thanks for watching.